have faith in Speaker Johnson. As you mentioned, the House of Representatives has already passed the Save America Act 3 separate times, and Speaker Johnson has already indicated they may even vote on it a 4th time. And while we were not able to coalesce on this rule, I have no doubt that upon returning from the Independence Day holiday, that the House is going to get back to work. And I say, attach it to FISA, attach it to NDAA, attach it to Budget Reconciliation 3.0. Do whatever it takes to get the Save America Act passed.
So Scott Pressler, very dedicated to this and has been a champion of it, but so are a lot of other people. And let's be real, the things that are involved in the Save America Act, they're 80-20 issues. It's a bipartisan crisscross every demographic that you want to. And Americans want this to pass. And Deroy Murdock is another one of those who does as well. Nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, and Fox News contributor Deroy Murdock joins us once again. Welcome back to the show, Deroy. Thanks for being with us today.
Annie, great to talk to you.
So the Save America Act, it's not done yet. I don't even know if it's close to being done yet. I don't understand what's going on in the Senate because this seems like a wildly popular collection of measures to secure our elections and to bring common sense back to Americans' everyday lives.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. And one of the things that I find very frustrating, and it should frustrate you and our listeners, is that you're at work, I'm at work, all of our listeners, or most of them, I imagine, have wrapped up our 4th of July breaks and, had our fireworks and hot dogs and all that. And now we're back at work. And guess where the U.S. Senate is? The U.S. Senate is on day 14 of an 18-day vacation. These guys take so much time off. And, it'd be one thing if they passed the Save America Act, President Trump signed it, they could say, all right, we're going to go kick back and relax. But, we get these excuses from John Thune and from John Cornyn, the leader of the two leaders of the GOP in the U.S. Senate, saying, we can't do the Save America Act. We're busy with the judicial nominations. We've got budget things to deal with. We've got the FISA reform for getting search warrants for people in intelligence cases. And we're just too busy for it. All right, well, then why aren't they right now? They're right now voting on these things because they're off at the beach. They're out hanging out at home, maybe they're overseas, wherever they are. They're not at work like 95% of the American public or 100% of the public who've got jobs today. Most people are working today. It's a working day, and the Senate's not there, and they're not going to be there till next Monday. So this is extremely irritating to me, and I really wish that the Senate would show up and focus on this and get this done. If this means they've got to do a standing filibuster, that's fine. We keep hearing, they need 60 votes in order to break the filibuster. That's not true. They've already gotten to the point where they can debate this. It's already gotten to the point of consideration. It can be stopped from even getting onto the floor. With 60 votes, the House Senate over is a privileged resolution, which means they only need 50 votes to move to consider it. Now what they need to do is get to the conclusion of all the speeches by the Democrats. Every Democrat gets to give 2 speeches. Some of these guys will, like Cory Booker, will probably talk for, 24 hours, but others of these folks are too old and tired to do that. They won't talk that long. And once every senator who wants to has given 2 speeches, then they can move on to a vote. And then you only need 50 votes to win. And if you do that, J.D. Vance comes in and breaks the tie, and the Save America Act passes. So this can be done if John Thune and company will show up and do their bloody jobs and stop giving us excuses and start working on saving America's elections and not working on their tans.
I just am looking at some of these senators that are really trying to make a bigger name for themselves on their way out the door because they were primaried and they lost. So there's something that their constituents don't like about a certain handful of these senators, about the direction they're going. There's something about them that suggests, we wish you would have taken a different tact and maybe we would have continued to support you in Louisiana, Carolina, or Texas. And they are using the Save America Act as a way to stick it to Donald Trump. I mean, I can't think of a more self-centered act on your way out the door when the voters kicked you out because you weren't supporting Donald Trump enough. I mean, I feel like this is legacy killing stuff for some of these Republican senators who won't play ball with their constituents and what they want.
You're right about that. And if this were something that were a 50-50 kind of proposition, half the country likes it, half the country hates it, well, I could see, all right, let's not stick our necks out over something that half the country hates. You look at the support for voter ID, the support for making sure that people who vote are U.S. citizens and not foreign citizens, making sure that vote rolls are up to date and don't have people who've moved away or people who've died, the ultimate move away, if you will, and also that we limit mass mail-in ballots or mail-in ballots, go from mass to limited to people who are either sick, disabled, military deployment, or they're away for business or away for school, studying in another state or something like this. Fine. If you're in those situations, then great, cast a mail-in ballot, but not this business you have in states like California and New Jersey, where everybody in the voter rolls gets ballots. They float around all over the place. The ballot hustlers pick them up, and they get dropped off, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later. And then all of a sudden, you see these people Republicans who appear, like Spencer Pratt did in Los Angeles, appear to be number two and be in the runoff. And over the next week or so, the magic ballots, as I call them, come in, and their leads disappear. And pretty soon, oh my God, wow, look, it looks like the Democrat won. We see this over and over and over again. And this terrible decision the Supreme Court made last week only makes this worse, because Amy Coney Barrett, to everyone's astonishment, wrote the majority opinion saying the states can go ahead and accept ballots after Election Day. And in California, it's 7 days. In other states, it's 14 days after the elections close, after the polls close. And in like Illinois, for example, a state where you live, is 14 days. Washington State to 21 days, 3 weeks after the election. And in this year, that would be November 26th. That means ballots can show up and be counted 2 days before Thanksgiving. This is insanity. Yeah. What kind of country are we living in where you can have ballots show up 3 weeks after an election? Oh, look, here's a ballot 2 days before Thanksgiving. Let's count this. And, you might have a Republican who's ahead, and all of a sudden these late arriving ballots come in, and guess what? The Republican lost, the Democrats get in. And this is exactly how the Democrats could take the House. I'm very deeply concerned about this. The other way to fight this, if we're going to have these ballots floating in late, is to limit the supply of them coming in the first place by limiting them to, again, people who are overseas, militarily deployed, people who are studying out of state, people who are away for business or travel or whatever, people who are sick, people who are disabled. Those people can cast absentee ballots, not the millions and millions who get thrown around in places like California, places like Clark County, Nevada, which is a swing state, and other states, 14 different states where these mass mail-in ballots can drift in drift in after Election Day. So that's what yet another reason for passing the Save America Act is this terrible decision the Supreme Court had last week.
We're speaking with Fox News contributor and nationally syndicated columnist Deroy Murdock. I mean, I'm thinking to myself about this moment in time right now, while we are uniquely positioned, even though it is a tough putt, to get this Save America Act passed, to get the fortitude and have it be done before we get to the midterms, and the midterms will bear out what they bear out, but also in conjunction with a new census coming in 2030 and some of the redistricting that has taken place already. The Republicans do have a little bit more of an edge than they initially thought. And somebody said to me, actually, it was a Thomas Massey tweet that someone shared with me and was talking with me about. He's like, he said he would vote for the Save America Act, but he found it a little ironic that we were having to do that when the Republicans control the House and the Republicans control the Senate and the Republicans control the White House, suggesting that, like, how much cheating can there really be when the Republicans have the majority and the power in both branches of government? Does the simple presence of a Republican majority suggest that Republicans are complaining about something that doesn't exist?
No, not at all, because the cheating that goes on doesn't happen in Washington, D.C. on the Senate floor and the House floor. This happens all across the country in places very often where Republicans are not in control. In California, you see these ballots being dropped off. You don't have to say who you are. You can take a big stack of 50 or 100 ballots, say, hey, okay, here's some more ballots. Please count these. I go, thanks very much. We'll count them. They don't know who you are. They don't know if you fill these out in your basement. They don't know if you pick them up legitimately from proper voters. Do you pick them up from a a nursing home where, unfortunately, people might be 95, 96 years old, and they think they're voting for Harry Truman or for FDR and not for whoever's on the ballot at the time. There have been cases where people have filled these out on the behalf of demented seniors, which is a disgusting thing to do. This kind of thing doesn't happen on the Senate floor or the House floor. This happens across the country. So Thomas Massie should understand that. And even if he thinks that, look, as long as we have Republicans in control of the House and the Senate and the White House, there won't be any vote fraud. Well, after November of this year, who knows if we're going to have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. We may not. We may have control of the White House and maybe one House of Congress, maybe neither House of Congress. And if that's the case, then those conditions he's describing vanish. Save America Act goes absolutely nowhere. And instead what you're going to have is the states feeling free to engage in this kind of skullduggery and nonsense. And another aspect of this, as I've said when we've discussed this topic, it's not just the corruption, it's the appearance of corruption. So even if you have, like in California, where these ballots can come in for a week after the polls close, or Washington State 21 days, when you have elections and nobody knows who the winner is for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, whatever it is, people think, you know what, they're in back stuff in the ballot. They're burning ballots for Republicans. They're stuffing with Democrat ballots. That may be happening, but even if it doesn't happen, even if everything's honest, everyone's above board, nobody's doing anything inappropriate, it's all pristine and gorgeous, the mere fact that you don't know who the winner is by 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning after the election leads people to think, you know what, some funny monkey business is going on. And as long as people believe that, whether it's true or not, if they just believe it, then people's sense of faith and credibility and belief in our elected leaders starts to evaporate. And then things start to fray and things really start to unravel. So, we want to fight corruption here, but we also want to fight the appearance of corruption, because the mere appearance of corruption alone corrodes our institutions.
So, Deroy, is it going to happen? Are the Republicans going to get this done? Ultimately, that's the question everyone's asking. All the sausage-making dirty details that lead into this moment. Do you think that they'll actually get it done?
I think they can if they focus. I think putting this bill into reconciliation 3.0, along with a lot of other good stuff like lowering the capital gains tax, taking the state savings from Doge and making them permanent law, taking a lot of President Trump's executive orders and turning them into statutes, which are much harder to reverse. Put all that together, put the Save America Act, and in order for Save America Act to stick in reconciliation, it has to have some kind of a fiscal impact. So you could put in there money to help states implement the Save America Act. Here's some money to help you put in the systems you need to make this thing work. Here's money to help you hire more people to make sure the vote rolls are accurate and correct, et cetera. That's fine. And if you have a fiscal impact related to the Save America Act, it's a lot easier for it to stay inside reconciliation. And if that's the case, you don't need 60 votes, you only need 50. And that'll make it a lot easier to get it onto President Trump's desk. So that should have been done before in Reconciliation 2.0. But again, John Thune, who seems to have a mind the size of a thimble, said, hey, let's have a microscopic reconciliation bill with just money for Border Patrol and for TSA. And he had the opportunity to put this in there and didn't. And so here we are, approaching the middle of July, trying to get this thing through. And I think it's wonderful that Speaker Johnson is trying to do it this way through Reconciliation 3.0, if that's what it takes. But, I think the Senate can do this if they sit down and focus. And also, as I said before, show up and do their jobs. Don't stop with the 18-day vacations. They say, oh, we only have, 35 legislative days to the election. Well, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that. This is not written in stone. John Thune can say, you know what, we had 35 legislative days. Guess what, folks? We now have 60. We're going to cancel these long breaks. We're going to sit here. We're going to work 6 days a week. You get Sunday off. We're back on Monday. We're going to keep working on this until we pass this bloody thing. I wish that John Thune had the gumption of somebody like Harry Reid. I didn't like most of what Harry Reid did, but Harry Reid was a tough guy when he was the Senate Democrat leader. And guess what date the Senate voted to implement or to approve Obamacare? They voted on Christmas Eve. After that vote, people were able to go home for Christmas. If John Thune were in charge, they probably would have left, taken off for Christmas on Black Friday.
Well, I think the task is clearly set out for the Senate. The House obviously has been willing to play ball here multiple times over. And I think voices like yours and the articles that you're writing that people can read as well at the Daily Signal are important for people to stay in tune to know that this issue is still an important one. It's still doable, but the pressure has to be on. And Deroy, you certainly are bringing that pressure. And we appreciate you doing that here with us today.
You bet. Great talk to you again, Annie.
You as well. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Deroy Murdock, nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, and Fox News contributor.